Hey, good morning, Lance. Henry McClure. Let's pick back up with the lawyer's lawyer. I think that I want to call this chapter Pawns. You know, like the chess game, the chess piece, pawns. And I mean, let's talk about parents using their children as pawns that have been, you know, divorced, separated, estranged, whatever. And I think it's probably more common practice. You know, the custody fight, you know, what holidays. I mean, the whole thing is just staged. The whole thing is just set up. I mean, the system, it's all, you know, the system creates the pawns. The system itself creates the... Good morning.
Good morning.
Charlie Wilson's off the leash, but he's a good guy.
Okay.
Yes, you know, it's like on a chessboard, the chessboard of life. Pawns, people, children. You know, is the, you know, to the general, is the foot soldier a pawn? Yeah. Uh-oh. There's the park police. Park police? Maybe somebody ratted Wilson out. You never know. But, you know, corporate America, the American citizen to the, you know, the working man. A lot of situations where you could, you know, be in that pawn role. I'm going to focus right now on my family and the divorce and my dad using my brothers and sisters as pawns. And it's really disgusting. And you know, my dad was a lawyer, so he had all the high-powered lawyers, and you know, he used the system to his advantage. Charlie Wilson, come! Get over here! It's on the other side of the creek. Get over here! Come! So, my dad, in his infinite wisdom, elected to take Robert and Allison away from my mom because she was an unfit mother, and left my brother John and I with mom. And I said, well, wait a second here. The argument here is that she's an unfit mother. Okay, how can it be unfit for two and not for the other two? I mean, what a bunch of bullshit. And I can't really remember, you know, how the courts ruled on it. I do know my brother ultimately lived with my dad. My sister Allison did live with us and then lived with her, or with dad. John might know, and I'll approach him when I'm prepared to talk to him about this book. He's still been out of shape over the settlement of my mom's estate, because he thought he was going to get a big chunk of money. And, you know, he doesn't realize that you know, my mom gave away her money, and that, you know, if I wouldn't have stepped in and took care of her in the end, we'd have been a fucking world of hurt for her. You know, where I was after the divorce, I wasn't really sitting strong, and where the economy was. Fortunately for me, I had taken some commissions over time. So, I mean, I had income and I was still making deals. But, I mean, the biggest asset she had was the house. And, you know, that was always going to go to me. So, you know, I lived there. I grew up there. I stayed there. I was the... Whatever, I paid my dues, whatever in the fuck you want to say. But that's just the way it worked. But, you know, back to the pawns. So, you got to understand, my mom and dad lived in Topeka their whole life. I saw my mom and dad in the same room, or together, whatever, side by side, 3 to 5 times only. I mean, one hand, baby. That's dysfunctional. I mean, the bitterness, you know, never like when you're dropping off, go in or whatever. And then, you know, Dad was always trying to one-up everybody with money. Anyway, my dad was an asshole about all that.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. Well, then, when we're talking about all that too, my little brother Matt always was a wild card, because Matt never really could understand that Dad had a whole nother life before him. And it's like, we were almost pawns to Matt. You know, Matt's in charge of his world and all that shit, but, you know, his stepbrothers and half-brothers and all that shit, we were pawns. We were Matt's pawns. That's funny. He always felt entitled, better than everybody. You know, he sits in jail right now for I don't know how many DUIs. It's a perfect place for him, because he's talked about suicide. I don't know. If you're not even successful enough to do that, I think he had a failed attempt at it, but pawns. So I think my dad over time would always advise people, my brothers and sisters, family, or anybody, if he's ever going to dole out any advice, it's going to be ultimately to the detriment of my mom. You know what I mean? Well, you know, you could do it this way, but this way, and then that way was always not going to show up good. So, you got to look at kids. There's a certain point in time where you... Good morning.
Good morning.
There's a certain point in time where even parents have to start looking at their kids as just equals, okay? Look, these are little human beings, you know, kind of a favored nation status, you know? I don't want to... I got to start doing what's in their best interest as humans, and not what is in best interest of, or worst interest of my ex. Good morning. Or, you know, my ex-husband, ex-wife, whatever. What's best for these little humans? Good morning. So, this is something that's very serious, because this pond shit is what, it affects people's life for the rest of their life. You know, sometimes actually people listen to advice and take it and say, well, you know what? I always looked up to that person. They said do this. And then that person's not even fucking qualified to be giving the information out. Hey, it's one pond talking to another, you know?
Your dog?
It's Charlie Wilson.
Okay.
He's a friendly guy.
Okay. I was getting a little nervous.
Somebody's going to steal her sandwich. But, I didn't say that. Ponds. Yeah, so you got it. There's an old saying about advice. The wise man don't need it and the fool won't heed it. But it's like, okay, is this really in your wheelhouse to be giving this kind of advice and these kind of recommendations? You know, sometimes in life you got to look at everything from 100 feet. And I'm looking at an old relationship right now, like from, oh shit, there's that park patrol. I feel guilty having Charlie Wilson off the leash a little bit. But adults sure can treat other adults, you know. Men can treat women like pawns, and women sure shit can treat men like pawns. You know, just to get what you want. And really, what's really, it's when you, it's that self-realization of pawnism. Oh, wow. She was treating me like a pawn. You really feel like. And what's even wilder is depending on how cold and calculated it is. I mean, even if things, you know, come 6, 7 years later, like, whoa. I know how to use this guy as a pawn. I met him 6, 7 years ago. Pawns. This is interesting. This is a good chapter. I think there's a lot more that I want to talk about. You know, and I think I really, you know, I probably need to focus on Robert. You know, I was talking last night with a friend, and she was wanting to kind of, you know, figure out my dysfunctional family tree. But you've got Robert, who was the oldest, Allison second, and then John, then me. There's 5 years difference. And actually, I think Allison was the first adopted, then Robert, then John. I'd have to double check. I'd have to ask John, because Robert and Allie are dead. And I don't know who else to ask. Mom and Dad are dead, of course. But what Dad did, Dad used the adopted kids like pawns. And Mom just said it like this, you know, he kept throwing kids at me to keep me busy. So, you know, the queen gets some more pawns. Mom loved kids. Mom loved people. Mom loved kids. Mom loved kids. God, was she proud that she was a grandmother and a great-grandmother. Even though all those bastards, you know, just kept producing more kids. But Mom loved kids. Yeah, she gave away a lot of her money to those little bastards. And I do mean that more figuratively. Labelingly. I think that's right, figuratively. We'll have to get our wordsmith person. I mean it because that's what the fuck they were. A bunch of bastards. Well, no, I guess not. I guess Franny and Faye weren't bastard kids, but all their kids were bastards. Bastards. That's kind of like jackass. Bastards. Jackass. I like that word, jackass. You know, if anybody calls me a jackass, I kind of feel warm and fuzzy, you know. Ah, damn, you're a jackass. Oh, thank you. It's almost a term of endearment. But, so, Robert, when he was 18, who was absolutely best friends with my stepbrother Johnny from my mom's remarriage to John Breyer. They had, John Breyer had John Breyer Jr., Jamie Breyer, and Pete Breyer. And they lived one block away, or one house away from us on Oakley and Campbell on 19th Street. So that was the scandal of Topeka, that these, well, trust me, there was no wife swapping going on. My stepdad stole my mom from my dad. My dad lost my mom due to alcoholism and not having the ability to change. My mom who loved my dad, gave my dad every opportunity to change. It's almost like today for me is the person that I'm going to be with from here on out. Is it going to be somebody who knew drunk Henry? Well, I'm drunk Henry still, but I'm just not drinking. But is it somebody that's just going to go, no, this Henry? You know, and let's just, like my daughter said the other day, Bianca's so cool. She goes, Dad, when is it going to quit being new Henry? I said, right now. I said, I get what you're saying. You know, I was a very highly functioning alcoholic. Did the right thing. Bianca and I talked about this thoroughly. But what, fortunately, and I don't care what you believe in, if it's, you know, I almost like to say it's like this. Because you can actually be pawns in religion. But, if you like the show Star Wars, that movie, that series, that concept of Star Wars, and the Force, there's a light side and a dark side of the Force. I mean, it's like there's a light side and dark side of energy. There's a light side. There's a dark side of human beings, of behavior. There's, you know, it's already in religion. You got the devil, you got God. So, you know, everybody can pretty much, all us pawns out there, we can all pretty much figure out the light and the dark side. Good and evil. But I tell you, the positive side of the Force entered me in May, and it's there today. And man, can I feel the dark side when I'm, you know, everybody has the dark side in them, and that's what helps you identify those that emanate the energy of the dark side. And makes you just want to avoid it. And that's what addicts, I mean, to really help in their recovery, is they got to stay away from that dark energy. You know, I was down at the sign company, which is the old watering hole on Fridays, and I was talking to my buddy Bobby Freeman, and Bobby was saying that people were talking that I've already fallen off the wagon. And I said, well, you know what? Next time you see those people, say, fuck you. Henry says, fuck you, because I don't care what they think. And number two, if I had, it doesn't matter. It's only my fucking business. But those are people that with dark energy. You know, they want to draw people to the dark side because they haven't seen the light. They don't feel the light. And as they say, misery loves company. Those pawns need to draw other pawns into the dark side where they feel more comfortable. The conversion rate to the dark side, it's fucking easy. Man, there's so many temptations. I mean, that was definitely why my last relationship ended, because I could see the dark side in her. And the light side was not going to come forward. Morning. Ain't a good morning for that guy. Looks like he slept in the mud. Actually, I felt a little of the dark side right there. Even though he smiled. Smiling faces. Smiling faces. They tell lies. They don't tell the truth. Yeah, so my last relationship, which was an on-again, off-again Flanagan, you know, taken to the most highest heights and the lowest lows. And really, I basically think I started off as a pawn in that deal. A pawn just to get back at her ex-husband. Due to events that had taken place 6 or 7 years later. Prior, you know. Not later. But, back as it relates to Robert Austin McClure, my dad. Well, hey, no, let's apply this right now to Henry Austin McClure and Bianca Bantleon McClure and Renee Lynn McClure. Because I always told her, look, I will be the best ex-husband you ever had. And I did my best at it. Had sex with her a couple of times when I looked like she needed it. Hey, got a little jogging in. Don't worry about it. You're doing all right. I never wanted to have the same situation between my mom and dad did. You know, so we shared holidays. I make sure Bianca sent the card. I made sure she called her. You know, Bianca one day and I were talking, and I was just so happy about like all the memories that I've got with her. You know, with all our kids and doing this, and you know, the friend like Reagan coming over, who lived down the street, because her mom treated her like a pawn. And watching Reagan and Bianca grow up, I mean, I never felt so grounded at Topeka when we took Bianca out of the private school, you know, where all the other kings and queens sent their pawns for status. You know, was it really, are you really getting a better education? Or is it just because you're socializing with all the other parents' pawns? But I tell you, the minute I figured at that point, you know, I had 5 or 6 buildings, all the real estate taxes I was paying, I should be supporting 501. You know, I'm paying it for it. But putting Bianca in Whitson Elementary School and then having her at least know the people in the neighborhood was the smartest move we ever made. Yeah, she met some really nice people, and not everybody was there for the status and all that bullshit. But I could tell you one thing for goddamn sure, it was my stepsister was. Oh, and my stepsister, you know, she dripped with like this false, she is the dark side of the Force. She is a Sith. She is a Sith Lord. She is the devil, my stepsister. She emanates this negative energy. Oh, I still can't be around her. She stole Charlie Wilson. Yeah, I had to have the sheriff go get Charlie Wilson because of that Sith Lord. Speaking of Charlie Wilson. Charlie Wilson, come! I'm at the end of the street. I'm not so sure that I'm at the end of our talk, though. How long have I gone? This is 26 minutes. I mean, there's a lot to talk about pawns and how children are used as pawns by their mothers and fathers. And goddamn it, it doesn't have to be divorced either. Hey, Wilson, there he is. Hey, 9 seats. Good boy. Good morning. So, yeah, I gotta have him on the leash to cross the street. Got the frisbee golfers out. Disc golf, that's what they call it. It's not frisbee golf, it's disc golf. Pawns. You know, that probably in itself might be a whole book. That probably could be a book. How the pawning of America. Wow. Lance. Footnote, baby. The pawning of America. No, really, how we've lost our identity through our the bureaucracy. Oh, wow, thanks. You know, we are on to a whole subject. This subject matter of pawns is a lot deeper. And Lance, I think I want to write that book, so start thinking of a ghostwriter. But, or whoever watches this video gets to steal it. Hey, I wonder if I could use this video history as kind of like a copyright. Hey, I do not authorize the replay or use of this or any of the contents in any way. I need to do a disclaimer here. I need to put my copyright stamp on this motherfucker. But, hell, I'm so hungry now, I can't think. I'm going to make a really interesting breakfast today. Pumpernickel bread, cream cheese, capers, red onion, smoked salmon, a little lemon. If I got it, I hope I got some lemon. 2 eggs sunny side up, man. Henry McClure with an addition, footnotes for the chapter about pawns for the lawyer's lawyer, but not the dad's dad. And came up with the idea of the whole book on pawns, how we are pawns in life. And really what you got to do, at least make yourself a knight. Don't worry about being king. Deep down, we're all kings. We're all kings in our own way. Halt! Seats! Seats! Hey, hey! Once a king, always a king. How does it go? Once a king, always a king, but once a knight is never enough. Henry McClure.